Hi guys, it's Emily from Novel Novels and welcome to today's video. This is my March wrap-up part 2. Now I'm filming this on the 31st. I'm completely and utterly exhausted because we went to London for Katie's book launch yesterday. Just to give you a heads up, my vlog will not be going up straight away for that because I've got an announcement to come up. It will be going out on the 12th of April. So if you haven't bought Katie's book from The Secrets of Hartwood Hall, why not? You've got to go and buy it. I'll be raving about that quite a lot in the coming months. But yeah, that's where I was yesterday. So I don't know how much sense I'm going to make today, but I'm going to give it my best shot. Now for the first little bit is obviously the stats. Then I'll show you the books that I read in the second half of the month. Now I read 32 books this month. Bear in mind I finished reading on the 30th because obviously of the event yesterday. I read 31 off my unread TBR. I gained 39 books because obviously it was my birthday month. I bought quite a few and I got given loads. But I did unhaul 9 books off my unread TBR because they were just not right. So they would either just, I didn't like them, or I did like my try chapter as well. I did quite a few then and I was just being really focused on what I get rid of. So my March unread TBR was 361 books. My April unread TBR was 360. So I got it down by 1. Although I have kind of bought 4 books yesterday and I've carried a few over. So I'm starting April on a few books, but not going to get stressed on that. I'm only doing 1 shopping trip to Wokingham and it's the school holiday, so I'm not going to be going into Val's books as much. I'm not going to be going out shopping as much. And there's no one that's going to give me any books. So I'll be fine. Fine. Now, for the genres bit. I read a multiple of genres this month. I read one of quite a few different genres and less of my 2 favourite genres. So that could be why my star ratings were not quite as amazing this month. So I read 1 sci-fi. That was amazing. 1 horror. 1 classic. 1 poetry. 1 fiction. 2 mystery/thrillers. 3 fantasy. 4 non-fiction. 7 historical fiction and 11 contemporaries, which is quite surprising. I only had 1 2.5-star book, 4 3-star books, 2 3.5-star books, 4 4-star books, 11 4-star books, 4 4.5-star books, and 11 5-star books. But most of those 5-star books were in the first half of the month, because in the second half, I only read 4. Yeah, even though it was my birthday month, I think I did better last month. I think it's just because I'm so busy. It's like, March was like one of the busiest months for me, and I think April's going to be, you've seen my April TBR, that's massive. Yeah, April's going to be quite busy as well, because of these holidays. But I don't want this video to be too long, so let's get started and show you the books. The 2.5-star book was Spinning Silver by Naomi Novak. I know I read it for the try chapter, but when I actually read it, I didn't enjoy it. I know so many people have loved it, and I feel absolutely awful that I didn't enjoy it. But I didn't. It was a retelling on Rumpelstiltskin, but I didn't get the retelling bit. It was different storylines. It was a bit jumpy. It really wasn't for me. Bye book. There's quite a lot of unholds. Then my 3-star book was My Family and Other Animals by Gerald Dahl. I know this is Nikki from Red Dot Reads, is one of her favourite books, but I didn't get into it. I don't know if it's just my headspace that I was in. I didn't get into it. It was okay. It wasn't amazing. It's non-fiction about these guys that went to Corfu and they lived a bit like a circus, and it was all right. I've read far better non-fiction, so it wasn't for me. Bye. My 3.5-star book was The Museum of Broken Promises by Elizabeth Buchan. I'm glad that I checked that I didn't buy this in all the charity shops. It was in loads and loads of charity shops. So I should have known the fact that that was the case, that it obviously wasn't going to be that amazing. It was all right. It's apparently historical fiction, although one of the timelines is like 1980s, which kind of gets me quite paranoid. It sort of tackles quite a lot about the war in the fact that with the resistance and things like that, and the post-war and communism and things like that. So the communism side of it's really prominent. I'm looking for double checking where some of the timelines are. But it was all right, and it was the broken promises bit I kind of got, but I really think they could have focused a bit more on that. And I think they would have got a lot more out of it. It was all right, but it wasn't, like, amazing like I'd hoped it was going to be. Yeah, one of the storylines was Prague in 1986, and that's classed as historical fiction. Bear in mind, I was, like, 7 when that was in that time. Yeah, I don't like feeling old. It was all right. And I think it taught me a bit of a different side, which is good. It was talking to me about the communism, but there were some really hard-hitting bits. Some of the things that happened and some of these people, how they got tortured and stuff, was very, very hard-hitting. So be aware of that going in. Then I picked up another Tudor book, an Emily Purdy. I bought it because Emily, you know. And this was actually one that I liked a lot more than I thought I would. And this is about shy plain Jane Parker feels out of place in Henry VIII's world of glamour and intrigue until she meets the handsome George Boleyn. Overjoyed when her father arranges the marriage, her relation is abruptly cut short when she meets Anne. So this is George Boleyn's wife's story, and it is a lot better than I thought it was going to be. It was nice to see, because a lot of books have painted her as a baddie, and she really was quite a baddie in the end. But you actually get why she was in a lot more of this, and I think I learnt a lot more about her, and I found this was my first of my 4 stars, and I actually enjoyed that a lot more than I thought I would, because she was involved in a lot more at court than you can imagine, because yes, she was obviously married to George, but it meant she actually outlived him, and then she kind of got herself into trouble with the old Catherine Howard, and we all know how that worked out. But this was actually a lot better than I thought it would. Still not going to unhaul it, but it was a lot better than I thought it would. Then another 4 stars was the Tuscan Contessa, and this was set in 1943. So again, I learnt a bit more about different era, and it's set in the Tuscan villa, and it's in Italy at the time of the war. And again, there's some really hard-hitting stuff in this, and these women that are desperate to sort of save each other and their families, and people that are lost because of the war. Very hard-hitting, very emotional, but it's still a good book. Not amazing, but very good. And I do like Dina Jeffries' writing. Definitely one I'm glad I read. So I'm not really going into much detail, am I, today? Definitely tell I'm tired. And then we got a non-fiction book that I wanted to read. I needed a non-fiction book that wasn't heavy, but that was good. And it was about the late Queen and her husband. It was written in, I think, 2000. When was it published? It was like when obviously Philip was still alive when this was written. I'm trying to think whether I've got the publication date. It was written in 2017, so it's quite a while ago. It was when Philip was alive, when the Queen was alive, and it talks about their relationship, and it really does go into a lot of detail. It talks about their relationship with their children as well, and I found that I learnt a bit more. This was actually a lot more interesting than I thought it was, and it was a really good book, really good autobiography on the Queen. I'm really glad I read that. I'm really glad I learnt a lot more about her and about Philip and about the things that happened to them. Obviously, I've seen The Crown. I've seen a lot of documentaries on Netflix about them, and this was a book that was amazing. Definitely recommend it, but I think Mum's going to want to read that. Then one that Mum won't want to read, I just picked up because it's been on my shelves for ages, and I needed something fun. The month's reading was tough, and obviously where my head was this month, I needed something fun. And Marley McFarlane does not disappoint. She was so much fun. I thoroughly loved this. This is Who's That Girl by Marley McFarlane, and it's amazing. Absolutely fun and just what I needed. Yes, it was 4 stars, but it was just what I needed. Actually, did I rate that 4? Yeah, I did. And this was Edie thought she'd found the one until he told her that he was marrying someone else. On the day of his wedding, he kisses her. Life really does go pear-shaped. What a bastard is all I can say at the start. And she's labelled a homewrecker. She's pushed out of her home. She gets sent on a job to be like a ghostwriter for someone else, for this rising star heartthrob Elliot. Yeah, you know what, like, the romance is going to happen. That romance side of it was predictable, but it was so good. It does tackle grief in a very real way as well, and it tackles the fact that we put these images up of ourselves, and sibling relationships aren't always good, so that was done really well. It was just a great, fun book. If you need a laugh, this is definitely for you. And then I had my Kathy Glass book, because you know, obviously I've been buying a lot of Kathy Glass. You'll see that on my book haul. And this was the only one that's not really got a 5 star, and I think it was because for me, I think this was a trigger, because I Miss My Mummy, and it was a child that got put into foster care and how the social care system stuffed up big time. And I think that was what got to me, because the kid, it wasn't traumatic in what happened to the child, and that was really good, and it didn't portray child abuse. There was no triggers on that, no triggers at all. There was no real like thing. And it was like, before she began to go downstairs, Alice drew me to a halt. I looked down at her big brown eyes. "Cathy," she asked innocently, "are you going to be my mummy now?" I could have wept. And about this gorgeous girl, and whether she needed to be put in foster care or not, and the parental journey, and there was some triggers, but not very many, but it was good. It was still good. It just wasn't the best of the Cathy Glass I've ever. Like, is it wrong that I kind of find the traumatic ones like 5 stars, but then you can't really rate the traumatic ones any less than that? It was good. It was really good, but it just not. I think I got too annoyed at the social care system. And then I finished the month on this book, which was Open Water by Caleb Azuma Nelson. This was on islands I got given from Gemma Books. It is a good book. It was 4 stars, obviously, but it's written in second person narrative, and I struggled. So obviously the writing is the person saying, you did this and you did that, and that like was really like, even though it was like 150 pages, I'm going to definitely reread this because I need to read it. I read it when I was trying to get an extra book read at the end of the month. Probably read it a bit too fast because I didn't take in as much because of the narrative. It is a good book. It talks about a black couple that meet, and they do clubbing, and it's set in London. I love the London bit of it. And they're both black and British. They both won scholarships to private schools, but they struggle to belong. They're both now artists. He's a photographer, she's a dancer, trying to make them work on a city that in turn celebrates and then rejects them. Tentatively, they fall in love, and the romance is really sweet, and it is a great book, but the narrative style was something I struggled with. It was really a bit of a challenge. But Charlie wants to borrow that, so that's on my pile for that. Then another one I put in at the end of the month. I had only got it not recently, and that was The Single Ladies of the Jakarta Retirement Village. You guys know I love books with an older protagonist, and this really did really well. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's set in a retirement village, and it's Jakarta Retirement Village. The lead character is Peggy Smart, who's 79-year-old. And at the time of this book, she starts it off. Her life is as beige as the decor in a retirement village. Her week revolves around aquarobics. She's like living to die almost. Like, she's just not living. She has weekly appointments with the doctor, and the highlight of her day is to ogle this like neighbour of hers, Brian. And then she meets an old friend, and this old friend turns her life around. And we do go back in time to how she met her old friend when they were youngsters, and how their journey, and you go on their 2 timelines. And this friend of hers, Angie, kind of reignites and makes Peggy live again. And it's brilliant to watch Peggy grow in this book. It's so much fun. If you like older protagonists, if you like fun, I laughed as well as I cried. I did cry a little bit, but I'm not going to tell you why, because that's a trick. But it was a really, really good book, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I've just realised it has a sticker, so it was definitely one I bought from Baz Books. I need to take the sticker off, so I don't think that it's been on the shelves a while. But really good book. Definitely recommend that. That was 4 stars. Now we're going on to our 4.5 stars. Now, for me, a 4.5 star book is great, but it's not one I'm going to keep. So it is great, and all these 3 lived in my memory, but for a different reason. They didn't quite get the 5 stars, but again, they were really good. First one is the Maggie O'Farrell book, After You've Gone, and this was one of the ones I did for my try chapter. This is a try chapter success. I think it was the only one of the whole bloody lot. I don't do bloody try chapter. If I'm having to try a chapter, it normally means it's not that great. And this is a lot of the game Maggie O'Farrell's writing, where she does do the different timelines and you're going backwards and forwards for different stories. But it does flow really nicely. It is very emotional. Alice Rakes boards a train at London King's Cross to visit her sisters in Scotland. Hours later, she steps into the traffic on a busy road and is taken to hospital in a coma. Who or what did she see in Edinburgh that made her return so suddenly? Was it the accident a suicide attempt? And what exactly do her family waiting at her bedside have to hide? And it slides between the different levels of consciousness, which is something I did sort of struggle with a little bit. and she began through sifting through recollections of her past and recently curtailed love affair. It was fascinating, a lot more of an enjoyable book, and it has made me even more excited about reading The Marriage Portrait by her. So I'm really looking forward to that, because that style of writing was one of her best. Even though it's an older book of hers, it was one of the better ones, because I've had a real hit and miss with her older books. I've loved Hamnet. There's another one I did love. This one was written in 2001, so it's one of her oldest books. But it's one, if you like Mary O'Farrell, this is one of her better older books, and definitely one I recommend. But it is one for charity shop. Then a good old, I can't say this person's name, Lisa from Lisa's Bookland, please correct me. Vida Patrick, The Curious Charms of Arthur Pepper. And this has an older male protagonist. I think it's because I'm getting older and I like people that are older than me, which doesn't come up very often in books. A feel-good story with oodles of charm that had me rooting for Arthur all the way. I proper rooted for Arthur all the way. This is Arthur and Miriam Pepper were happily married for 40 years. They shared an uneventful life in Yorkshire. 2 children and no secrets. At least that's what Arthur thought. Now he's on his own. He gets up every morning, eats his breakfast, and then until something disturbs their routine. On the first anniversary of Miriam's death, he finds a box containing a gold charm bracelet, and on the underside of the elephant charm is a telephone number. And then Arthur phones that telephone number, and then he goes into all the different charms and he finds out about Miriam. He goes right back to Miriam's life and he finds out stuff that he didn't know about her. And it kind of makes him question stuff, and it's really good because, like, he's finding out about the woman, finding things about the woman he doesn't like, but he's also growing as a person. I really enjoyed that. I loved watching him grow. I loved watching him change his relationships with his family, his kids. I loved him going out of his box. So again, it's him becoming alive again. I thought that was fascinating. Really loved that. Now this next one I'm going to keep because it was a gift, but I'm not sure if I should keep it because this book is amazing. It's Erica James's amazing book, and it is about mothers and daughters. But there is a lot of triggers. For me, there was triggers of gaslighting in this. Gaslighting and domestic abuse are very prominent in this book. I can't tell you who or where it happens, but for me, because of personal experiences in my life, I found them very traumatic. So although the writing in this is incredible, that's why it's 4.5 stars. The writing is amazing. Those triggers meant that I had to keep putting it down and up and down and up, and I was crying my eyes out and I was really struggling. Even happy families have their secrets. Anchor House is the coastal home where Naomi and her husband raised their 2 girls. Now widowed, Naomi is bringing up life alone, and the arrival of Ellis next door is bringing some fun back, and I love that bit. And Naomi's daughter are very different. Martha is determined and driven like her father, whereas Willow is a free spirit. These 3 women have been close but had a lot of secrets, and yeah, it was an amazing book, but some of those secrets and some of the stuff in that really triggered me. So I think I'll put it somewhere, but I may hide it on my shelf somewhere where I'm not going to see it all the time, if that makes sense. I don't know where I'm going to put that yet. And then to my 4 5 stars books. I could tell you the favourites, and to be honest, any one of them could be my favourite. So I'm not really going to give you guys the choice to pick because they're all amazing. And although I'll tell you which books are the 2 of them that I would probably say are kind of favourites. But yeah, they're all guilty pleasures. They're all amazing. I'm drawn to be loyal to this because it's royally Doris. It's Charlie Heathcote's last book in the Doris series. I beta read a copy of it. And then this is the final copy, and Charlie sent it to me as a gift. It could easily be a favourite, but because it's series, do I say it's a favourite? I don't know. All of them are series books. If you like Charlie, if you like books where they laugh, this is the best in the series. I laughed, I cried. I've always tell people I recommend this series. It is friggin' amazing. I loved every second of it. I laughed, I cried. It was even better than the beta read copy. It's Doris's last stand, effectively, and I don't really want to go into too much detail because it's the last in the series, but it connects up all the other books in the series so perfectly. We find that I loved all the characters. I loved Doris, I loved Harold, I loved their friends, I loved the friendships that are in it. I love this book more than anything. It's the best book ever. Then next one's my guilty pleasure. It was 5 stars. It's first in the Bridgerton series, The Duke and I. I know a lot of people have slated it. I know a lot of people have literally ripped it to shreds. It shouldn't be a 5-star, but it bloody was. It was the laugh a minute. It was the saucy bits. I bloody loved it. But I think, even though, yes, there were differences between this and the actual series on Netflix, maybe I kind of, with the saucy scenes, I was focusing on that sexy guy. God, that actor. Jean-Claude, whatever. Oh my God, he's fit as fudge. And I was like, yeah. Steaming moments, you don't want to be on the other end of me, but oh my God, yeah, it properly was like saucy. But I loved the book even more than I loved the series. It made me like not love the series as much, because they did it differently. In the Netflix, you're focusing on Queen Charlotte quite a lot, and this is just them and just their family, and there is some differences, and I just loved it. It was a guilty pleasure. It was brilliant writing. I'm definitely carrying on with the series. If I need to do this, it's brilliant. And it's just absolutely funny. I love this. So definitely a brilliant book. Then a book that I didn't expect to love, and I did, was The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. Thoroughly loved this. Absolutely loved it. Definitely thought it was a brilliant book. When Rosemary Harper joins the crew of the Wayfarers, she isn't expecting much. It's sci-fi. It's set in space. Multiple different, like, people of different, like, aliens. Different, like, different people. It was just so diverse and amazing, and it was just completely out of my comfort zone, but I bloody loved it. It was absolutely brilliant. Rosemary gets more than valuable. I thought it was just about Rosemary, but it isn't. All the characters appear in this, and you grow to love all of them, all the different species, all the foods, everything. It's completely different. But I definitely want to, if I can find the rest of this, I will. It was my recommendation from Gemma Books. I bloody loved it. 100%, one of the best books ever. And then last but not least, my book that I got sent by Love Book Tours, Pandemonium Parrots. It is a fantasy. It was an RPL product. It's a fantasy, like middle grade fantasy. It was fun. It was brilliant. I'm going to get Mia to love this. It's like about these mechanical parrots and things like that. It was so much fun. Otto lives with his uncle, an ambitious inventor and creator of mechanical animals that live in the orangery. When a break-in occurs, many parrots are stolen. The police brigade blame Florence, a street child who sits outside the orangery and draws. Otto and Florence work together to solve the crimes. It's crimes, it's pirates, it's mechanical animals. It's fun, it's exciting, it's thrilling, it's brilliant, it's middle grade. Do you know what? For the first time in a long time, I'm not going to say what my favourite book of the month is, because all of those four are brilliant. I think my favourite from the first half probably is Walking on Sunshine by Giovanna Fletcher, but that's could be because of the grief. I think like Royally Doris was the one that gave me the most emotions, but Long Way to a Small Angry Planet was amazing as well. I think both those could easily, because they're in my head, like they're properly in my head, and they're ones I'm definitely going to keep. So thoroughly loved them. Anyway, let me know in the comments down below, what was your favourite book of the month? I would love to know. Are there any books that stood out to you as like amazing? Let me know down below. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you're new to my channel, not subscribed yet, ring on my ding-a-ling. I'll see you all soon. Bye bye.